Welcome back, everyone, to another segment of the MCR. Mac and me. My name's TJ. Thank you, everyone, for your support. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Uh, if you're watching us on Rumble, for all our efforts, we're kind of struggling to get out there on Rumble. But if you're watching us on Rumble, thank you very much. The topic. I'm going to start off with a little ditty, a saying that everyone's heard of. And the saying goes, excuses are like, and pardon my French, folks, excuses are like assholes. Everybody has one. I've modified that a little bit, and I don't know if anyone's ever thought this before or not, but excuses are like assholes. Some really stink, you know? And the
Right.
excuses that have come out of the Senate this past week stink, to put it bluntly. This past week, the House managed to pass the SAVE Act, and they actually had a Democrat representative vote with them. A Democrat, I forget his name, out of Texas, voted with the Republicans, and we already got a slim majority in the House, so it was nice to have that Democrat come along. So it goes on to the Senate, and I've searched high and low for the clip because I heard about it in the news, but I couldn't find it. But in an interview, Thune was making all sorts of excuses of what took precedent over them voting on the SAVE Act. And to the point where what could be more important than this? The SAVE Act, if you're unaware, and I'll keep this as brief as possible, basically it's trying to secure our elections nationally. And I know the argument, all states have a right to run the elections the way they see fit. Yeah, but I don't need states like Wisconsin forcing Biden on me, like, you know what, we'll say like they did back in 2020. You know what I'm saying? I don't need one state mucking it up for another state.
I had in a video we did called Democrats Are Changing Everything, people commenting it's none of our business because we don't live there. The hell it isn't.
It affects us. It
Yes, it does.
and
And they
because
can't
it
even make
affects
an
us, it's our
argument.
business.
They can't even make an argument that a valid argument that it doesn't affect us.
Well, Chucky Schumer, in an effort to, God, that old man is so desperately trying to hold on to his power. Chuck Schumer's going out on the Senate floor just this past week. This SAVE Act is Jim Crow 2.0. And
Old, tired, worn out argument. It's still 1930. Black people are drinking on a different fountain. Stop with that bullshit. Nobody believes it. Or only, let me put it this way, only the mega stupid believe it.
yeah, I'm so weary of Chucky Schumer's lame excuses. Let AOC primary him and beat him at this
Oh,
point, you know?
no, back to Schumer for a second. I'd like to mention to Chucky that Jim Crow was a Democrat policy.
Yeah, that a little piece of detail conveniently overlooked.
Well, they always leave out details, like the truth and facts.
And President Trump never missing an opportunity during a Q&A with the reporters because Trump at the drop of a dime will have a casual back and forth with reporters, and they were calling him out over the SAVE Act, and basically Trump was saying, the Democrats are opposed to the SAVE Act because they want to cheat. And of course,
Everyone knows that.
everyone knows that. Everyone knows that. Uh, and speaking of cheating, just this past week or so, a couple weeks ago, I want to say, they raided Fulton County. I hear Maricopa could be next. That's rumor, so it may or may not happen. But the rumor I heard is Maricopa could be next. And I got to tell you, if that's the case, they need to get Philadelphia and Wayne County on the next list too. Then, you know.
Right,
So,
right.
anyways, as I digress here, back to the SAVE Act issue between Republicans and Democrats. Basically, all demographic groups perhaps with the exception of one, we'll say, but virtually all demographic groups, minorities, blacks, Hispanics, it the SAVE Act enjoys anywhere from, and I'm just going to paint with a broad brush here, so forgive me, 60 to 85% approval.
I
It
think overall, with all the Democratic groups, it's 86%. And I'd like to point out something here. What about democracy? The democracy, 50.01% rules.
yeah,
And
yeah.
they don't want to go with the 86. If we let 86% of the people have their way, it'll ruin the country.
Well, as I was listening, because during my lunch hour, I'll listen to the Vince Colonnese show. And here in the Detroit area, they don't run it, so I have to stream it. But that's okay. You know what? It sounds better than AM. I'll tell you that. So, anyways, I'm streaming the Vince Colonnese show. Vince is out for some sort of medical reason, so his producer Jim Verdi, and he's affectionately referred to as producer Jim. So, if you're familiar with Vince Colonnese or even Dan Bongino, you'll hear him say producer Jim this or that, or whenever. Anyways, producer Jim was winging it for Vince, and producer Jim, he theorizes, and I think he confesses that this is just a theory of his, but it sure sounds like a sound theory to me. He says he suspects there's internal polling with the Democrats telling the Democrat Party you don't really want to go there as far as minorities not being able to get the proper ID to vote. He goes, because you're indirectly saying they're not smart enough. And he
Well,
and
first off, and another thing, we'll say you say minorities, but they mean blacks.
yeah, yes.
Blacks know they have IDs, and they know they use their ID in every in every part of their life, so they know it's bullshit.
Yeah. Well, and that's why producer Jim suspects this isn't polling well. He goes, so what do? They they fall back to what has become the reliable anti-Trump liberal, somewhat young, I am woman, hear me roar, okay,
Yeah,
demographic group where, and I've heard senators, even I want to say Murkowski, senator, which is uh, Rhino, and that's being generous, okay.
she's a Democrat.
But Murkowski saying married women won't be able to change their name, and if they can't get their name changed, then they won't be allowed to vote. I got to
Well,
tell you,
I'm sure in the liberal media, no one asked the obvious follow up question, which would be, how is it they're not able to? Because in my mind, it's not a matter of can't, it's a matter of didn't. And voting is a responsibility. And it's your responsibility, if you get married and change your name, to go into the DMV or the Secretary of State or whatever it's called in your state and make that change. And it's simple as hell to do.
well, and I'll speak for myself. I know Mac will chime in with his responses, but you know, when I got married to my wife, she couldn't get to the Secretary of State's office quick enough. She was so, there's that euphoria of, wedded bliss, newlywed, that all that stuff. Man, she couldn't get to the Secretary of State's office quick enough, and she had no problem changing her name, and she has voted since then with her married name. It's
That's why I say that the whole concept of they can't is a lie. And there's no better way to say it. It's just a lie, and they want the most stupid of stupids to believe it.
Well, and it takes me back to how I started off with the segment. Excuses are like assholes. Some really stink.
Yeah.
And when
Well, here's
I
what I'd like to know: how do they know that women won't be allowed to vote when we don't know what a woman is? We're
oh
not
yeah.
biologists.
Yeah.
Is Hakeem Jeffrey a biologist that he can say who what a woman is?
Well, we know at least uh one Supreme Court justice doesn't know what a woman is.
Yeah,
Everyone calls her Jackson Brown, Ketanji Jackson Brown or whatever her name
yeah,
is.
what? Yeah.
you know. But you know, it when I heard Murkowski and other Democrats chime in with the a married woman, I said they are pulling out the lamest of excuses, and well, that got me on the some really stink rant. You know?
Well, I'll say it again. It's not a matter of can't, it's a matter of didn't. And if you don't do what you're supposed to do, there are consequences for doing what you're supposed to do and not doing what you're supposed to do. And now we're supposed to live in a country that where we all have to suffer the consequences of people not owning up to their own responsibilities. And that's basically the difference between liberals and conservatives. Conservatives believe you should own up to your responsibilities, and liberals think everyone else is responsible for your weak ass failures in life.
Well, I've heard some commentators go out on a limb with this next statement. If they don't know how to get proper ID, should they even really be voting? I mean,
Well, everyone has a right to
you know,
vote, but again, it's your responsibility to do the things necessary.
well,
I'll tell you what, they can sure get on TikTok, they can sure get on Facebook, they can sure get on X. They know how to do those things. They know how to use Google, but they don't know how to get. I mean, if you know how to use Google, then you know how to get your name changed.
oh, big time, big time. Well, as I wrap up my thoughts here, I last heard that the Senate Republicans may have the 50 vote threshold. Yes, I know the Democrats can uh, invoke, do a filibuster. The hope is, and we say this with arthritic crossed fingers. Okay, the hope is that uh, Thune will basically make them execute a talking or standing filibuster, and and of course,
He's one of the guys voting against it, and I would encourage everyone that watches this video and tell 100 people, pound his office with calls.
oh, and I heard Tom Tillis too, and I think he's from one of them southern states. Tom Tillis, believe it or not, the reason why I say they may have 50 is they finally wooed Susan Collins.
Well,
Because what
again,
I read was what
I
I
heard she was pounded with calls.
yeah, what I read was she would vote to approve it with conditions. I don't know what those conditions
Well, she
are.
she always likes to be the holdout, the last deciding vote, so she can get up there and I'll use one of your favorite words, pontificate,
Oh yes.
even though she's not the pontiff and never could be. She, for numerous reasons, she likes to get up there and wax eloquent and make a 45-minute speech about how damn brilliant she is when I'd primary her ass so fast.
Well,
I'd just as soon rather have a Democrat in that seat.
well, I surely understand your frustration, but my fear is in a state like Maine, that may be the best we get. Murkowski's the one that has to get fixed. I
Yeah.
don't, for the life of me, I wish someone from Alaska would explain that whole messed up situation. I've said this. If you're a faithful viewer, I've been ranting this for a couple years now. The only reason why Murkowski's a senator is because in 2010 she won that write-in. Honestly, she's the only one I ever heard win a write-in.
She won it because it's ranked. It's something you get so many first. Who would you like first? Who would you like second? And who would you like third? Well, whoever ends up with the most of those votes, even if you finish third, but you got the most thirds, then you're the candidate.
Yeah. Well, right right now, I personally find Murkowski more frustrating than Susan Collins, though I wouldn't disagree with you on Susan Collins, though.
Well,
You know.
Murkowski is a Democrat that uses Republican money and this is why I won't give a dime to the GOP National Committee, because they give her money to run against me.
Yeah. Uh, I've said my piece. We'll see what happens this next week. See if we really do have the 50 votes. See if Thune really does make the Democrats execute a stand. And by the way, I'm not opposed to a standing filibuster, or it's called a standing or talking filibuster. It goes by both. Either or is proper term.
It can only last so long before the speaker drops.
From what I understand, a talking filibuster is any senator can get up there and talk for as long as they can, and they can't take a lunch break. I'm told they can't even take a potty break.
Yeah,
Okay,
they wear diapers,
yeah.
is what they do.
So they get up there and And when they give out, if there's someone else to take their place, that's fine. Here's the thing: they could do it twice, and then after the second time, no more. So so yeah, if they were dedicated enough, they could drag this out a few days. And this, you know,
And I'll enjoy if that happens. I will enjoy it because it'll give us something to talk about in regard to the how desperate they are to not have voter ID because they want to cheat.
well, some Republicans are like just fine and dandy with them doing the talking filibuster because they want them to talk and in talking expose their idiocy. You know,
Right.
I mean, I don't know if that's just pushing your luck too far, but and I also heard the reason why Thune and some rhinos are against it is it makes them do their blessed job. Get
Well,
in,
they haven't done their job for the last 40
you know what?
years, I would tell you.
Get in the chamber and do your job so us people in flyover country won't view you with such contempt. You
Right. Well,
know?
they couldn't care less. I mean, they look down on us to a degree that's sickening.
Oh,
I'd like to close with one thought. I'd like to remind everybody that these same people who think you don't need an ID to vote, who are going to demand that you show your vaccine
oh
papers
yeah.
to buy food to feed your children. This is the level of evil we're dealing with. And they wanted to put us in concentration camps until we got our mind right.
Well, they. I'll speak for myself. I was leaned on heavily at my job. You know, I I and I was a contractor too, so that put me in a more perilous situation. But uh, you know, you couldn't go to a restaurant, or some restaurants will say. Some restaurants in some states gave the federal government the middle finger, like Florida and I think Tennessee. You
Yeah.
know, which the land of orange. Anyways, uh, yeah, that got brought up too this past week was the fact that they damn sure wanted to see that vaccine card. You know,
Yep.
so all
Yes,
right,
please.
okay, have we ranted adequately?
Well, I don't know. That'll be up to our viewers.
Okay, all right. Uh, anyways, people, feel free to leave your comments, and if you disagree with us, by all means, make it known. Okay.
I mean, I would ask this of people because we saw a lot of this with a couple of videos ago. People commenting on what we didn't say.
Yeah, you might want to watch the video before you comment, but of course, only
They
people
don't.
watching will see this. So,
Correct.
all right, enough said. Thanks, everyone. We'll catch you in the next segment. As always, be safe, watch your six, and don't tread on me.